Hello and welcome to this workshop on yourself. Uncover and nurture her. So my name is Katrina Horn. In case you don't know me, I'm a life coach and I help my clients do just that. Find out more about who it is they really are so that they can embrace all of it and then decide on what they want to nurture and perhaps uncover some of the things that they didn't even know was in them. And that is precisely what we're going to talk about today. So welcome. Welcome. I hope you have got like about an hour ahead of you that you can devote to being present here. If you haven't got the time live, like you can come back to this later and watch the replay. If you're here live, you're free to participate in the chat. You're free to come on camera so that I can see you. Hello, Renata. Lovely to see you here. Just know that if you talk while on camera, you will be part of the recording. So this is recorded. And there will be a replay, hopefully, because I'm recording it. Yes, so there will. Shall we just dive straight into what I've got in store for you? Knowing that you're free to ask questions, you're free to comment, and I am going to ask you really a few questions that you can ponder on. So if you've got a pen and paper, that's all gorgeous. If you want to participate in the chat, that's also very, very gorgeous. So in this workshop, you're going to be asked to reflect on your potential and you are going to identify where it has been nurtured or perhaps where it has been stifled or just left unnoticed. And we'll be creating a plan to explore your untapped possibilities. So I love talking about possibilities, and I don't want us to get caught up on the idea whether we've got infinite possibilities or whether they are limited, because I'm thinking that there's so much to explore, there's so much to develop that it is as if it's infinite, and perhaps it is. I'm not a mathematician, so I'm not really sure. What I am sure about in my own case is that when I was little, I wanted to be a ballet dancer. I wanted to dance on stage. I wanted to be Swan Lake, right? I wanted to wear the tulle and the dresses and look gorgeous on stage. That was something that I really wanted. And I think that today I couldn't become a ballet dancer because I'm 57, and let's face it, I mean, I know that nobody else has become a professional ballet dancer at 57. Of course, you could tell me, oh, I could be the first person to do so. I just think that there's too much disbelief in my way of doing anything like that. So that's why I have a sort of caveat on anything being possible. I think much is possible, everything, I don't know. But I like to toy with the idea of infinite possibilities. So this workshop is for you if you're wondering if there isn't more to you than meets the eye. If you're curious to find out about what that could be, and this is a sort of no pressure workshop, and what I would really invite you to think about is that you stay in this non-judgment zone so you don't make yourself wrong for the untapped possibilities that you have left in your past, right? And you don't worry about, oh, how can I develop them in the future? But you just stay focused on right here and right now, where everything is good, really. Everything is good. So much is still possible. I like to say everything is possible. But if you can't go all the way to everything, then just stay with so much is possible. Also, another caveat is that unless you take action on some of the things that you learn here in this workshop, nothing will change. So I know that it feels nice to think about that you could be a ballet dancer or start your own business, be a fighter pilot, or that you could have the relationship of your dreams. But if it just stays in your mind and you don't do any of the uncomfortable things, such as taking actions on it, well, it will just stay an idea really in your mind. And that would be so sad. So we get to decide what action we take. And I think you can take action that feels a little bit daring, but not hugely frightening. But I would love for you to leave this workshop with just one action item, if I sort of talk in coach speak, just one thing that you really want to focus on, knowing that, well, it could be hard, but then hard is okay because we can do hard. We were made for it. So think about something that you already are, and it could be your job. So maybe you studied hard to become a lawyer, or you studied hard to become an accountant or a life coach or whatever. Or maybe you're a mother and you brought up your children, perhaps you're still bringing them up, and that is hard too, right? But you're doing it. You really are doing it. So you can do hard things, right? And so the other stumbling block that I was just talking to somebody about is that sometimes we don't think that we are worth the effort for hard. And what I'm going to suggest to you is that, well, it's really hard staying limited because that just feels so unfulfilling. That feels so like as if we're missing out on a lot of things. And when we are limited like that, we could not be feeling good and all of that. So that in and of itself is already hard. So if you are willing to do a different kind of hard, think about how much more would be possible. So we're going to explore the potential you've already developed and what remains hidden. And to do that, I'm going to develop an image, and I really want to also show it on the screen here so that you can get a visual idea of what it is I'm talking about. So think about your nurtured potential as the tree that is above ground, like all the branches. And so you can see it's got like, this image has got lots of branches. You can really decide on the tree you want to have in your mind's eye. But what you can see is the nurtured potential. And maybe you are aware that trees are just as big below ground as above ground. And what if that was true for you? What if below ground there really was an enormous reservoir of dormant potential, just as much as the potential you can already see? What if that was the case? Just stay with that for a minute. If you're on the replay, maybe you want to pause me here. Maybe you want to just think about that. Oh, what if actually there are things I was completely unaware of, but they were there. Like, I know they are there. I can't see them. And when I can't see them, when they're not right in my face, I find it difficult to believe in them. I find it difficult to believe that they exist. If you think about your potential like that, what comes up then? Do you see where I'm going with that? How can we sort of shift you in to this space in your mind where you're completely okay with there being dormant potential and that you don't really know exactly what it is, but that it's there? And then we look at the nurtured potential, the potential that you are more or less aware of as the things you can see, the branches on the tree, and all of it really makes up who you are. Not just what you can see, but everything that is unexplored underground. Does that make sense? Fantastic. Great. So good. So if we are like trees, I like to have this metaphor. Maybe it doesn't help you, but it really helps me. If we are like trees or a plant, we can plant ourselves in the most fertile soil. We can tend it, we can water it, we can nurture it so that it gets to develop in the best way. And I find that so good to know, because if I'm the person responsible for tending the tree that I am, if I'm responsible for that well-being? Well, it means that I get to control the nurturing. So if I can just nurture it, doing my best, knowing that it will never be perfect, but I really can take control over that. I can make sure that I fertilize the tree, I fertilize the plant, I water it, I take care of it. I can love on it, right? If I really look at myself as that tree, I can make sure it gets taken care of. So that doesn't mean I won't let other people water it, right? That is just icing on the cake. Go ahead, come and water me, come and tend me, come and nurture me. That is all gorgeous. But I am ultimately the person responsible as an adult, right? When I was little, of course, I was not responsible. But right here, right now, I'm adult, so I am completely responsible. Not, and again, I'm coming back to that idea that there is no pressure, there is no judgment. It's just you really being empowered, we call it in coaching. That empowered feeling of knowing that I am in full control over what I do to nurture myself. I can ask other people to participate, but ultimately, I am in control and I am responsible. So responsibility and control are not always the same, but that's a different subject I won't go into. What I'm going to invite you to do is that to think about that you were born with infinite potential. Some is nurtured and some is stifled and some remains dormant. Now, your life right now is the result of your choices. So right now, if you're here live, if you're watching on the replay, it doesn't matter, you can still comment. I would love to know, and if you want to share in the chat, is there sort of a unique talent you had when you were little? A talent that something you enjoyed doing, perhaps something creative, but it could also be just something you did, a talent. Like, I don't know whether it was a talent, but something I really enjoyed was my doll's house. I really enjoyed shuffling the furniture around in that doll's house. I love making up stories about the people living there and sort of going through their lives and being with them, organizing the house, looking after it. And I find myself today doing the same, except it's a real house. It is. And I think that says so much about my talents. And when we talk about our talents, it's not to say I'm better at arranging a house than other people, right? That's not what it's about. It's about just recognizing, oh, actually, I do this quite well and I enjoy it. So I would love to know in the chat if you have got any kind of thing like that from your childhood. Maybe it was nurtured. So Renata says, I love telling jokes and entertain the people at gatherings and also in the classroom. How gorgeous is that? Yes, so good. So, so good. So what if that was something that was nurtured? Excellent. Like I can't say that me playing with my doll's house was really nurtured, but it existed. I enjoyed it, but I can't say it was really nurtured. When I look at what was really nurtured was music. So my parents came from very humble origins, and their dream for my sister and myself were that we got access to a much better life than they had. And so they thought, oh, we must cultivate these little girls. And because what had been cultivation in their day was like being able to play instruments and know a lot about literature and doing well at school, well, that's what they wanted for us. So every aspect of that sort of musical, well, anything we could access really that had to do with music was freely offered. When I say freely, it was not that freely, but I mean, it was available and we were encouraged to partake of it. Now, my sister was very fond of horse riding, and I would say that that was tolerated. Like it was not something that my parents really wanted to support her in because it was not part of their vision for her life. So I wouldn't say it got squeezed out of her. I wouldn't say it got stifled because she was allowed to go horse riding, but it just wasn't really supported. So maybe you have got something coming up like that for you. I would love to know what that is, if anything. And then I would want to move on. I would like for you to map out your journey. And so this is a reflective activity. If you've got pen and paper, you can draw a line across the paper in the middle, preferably, and then move yourself back to a time in the past where you felt that your potential was nurtured. So talents, skills, or traits. What really got nurtured here? So in my example, it was when I was little. I was given music lessons. My mom did drive me to piano lessons at a time. So that was very much welcomed. We were encouraged to go and practice, although I don't think we did that a lot, but it was very much nurtured. So you can think about what was nurtured in my life when I felt nurtured. What was it? And how was that supported? How was that really supported? I had another passion, which was drawing houses. So my aunt was an architect. And so I knew about architects, that architects existed. And I loved dreaming up houses and making the sort of the architect's drawing seen from above of houses, and they would be palaces, of course. They would be enormous houses, and I would draw in the furniture and all of that. That felt so gorgeous. So I think the support I had in that was my aunt, but it wasn't really encouraged otherwise. Like nobody reminded me to go and say, oh, go and draw some houses now, Katrina. Like it was more like, go ahead and practice your piano, if you see what I mean. So how were your skills, your traits, your pastimes, how were they encouraged? Who encouraged you? How were they encouraged? Think about that. Throw your mind back to a time. So it could have been later. Maybe it was when you went to university or you received training. Have you got any memories of that, of you feeling really supported and nurtured in something? And how were you nurtured? What were the elements of nurturing? Can you think of any? Fantastic. I was just thinking about me later on in life. I think it was very much up to myself to nurture it. But I think that's also just because I'm very self-driven. So maybe what comes to mind is I had a boyfriend when I was very young, and I think he really nurtured the femininity in me because he helped me see that I was feminine. And that was really a great support because I wasn't so sure of it myself, if you see what I mean. When we're young, like it's so difficult to find out who we are, isn't it? And with age, well, we keep evolving, don't we? And so maybe we can see a few more things. So if I look back to that time, I would say that, yes, my femininity was definitely nurtured by my boyfriend. And maybe I was exploring it myself in ways of dressing, in using makeup, because when I was growing up, my mum never used any makeup. So that was another thing I was exploring. So perhaps looking at, well, actually, I'm thinking that my aunt used makeup and she actually showed me how to put on mascara. So Yeah, I never took that very far. So I can't say that that is something I really want to nurture. But just think about something for yourself where you felt, okay, this is supported. This was a time. Maybe like now I've got a coach and a business coach. So I feel that I'm really nurtured in my business. Like she has got my back all the time and I feel so supported. And that really makes me think that, oh, I think I'm more and more supported in life as I grow older. Isn't that good to know that I feel so supported? So when I say supported, it doesn't mean that you're showered with love. It also means that you're encouraged to explore. So it's not just somebody telling you, oh, you did so well. It's also saying, oh, this is so good. How could you make it even better? So I find that nurturing is inviting people to do even better. Just like with the plant, when we nurture the plant, it's encouraging it to grow. So that's really what we're looking for. Maybe you want to then jot down the names of a few people who supported you, a few teachers, family members, perhaps friends, or it could be friends of your family. It could be anybody really, but people who supported you to really embrace that part of you. So I'm hoping that this creates some clarity really for you so that you can notice, yes, in the past I have been supported. Right now, perhaps I am still supported. This is what it looks like. And then you could write down how these people encourage you to grow and how these people encourage you to think bigger. So I love the idea of thinking bigger. And I was just on Insight Timer earlier today talking about that, how we can allow ourselves to be grateful for what we've got, yet want that more. So I can be really grateful. The example I gave was that the biggest luxury in my life is that I don't have to set my alarm clock to wake up in the morning because I can wake up whenever I want to. That feels so good. Now, it doesn't cost any money, right? It rather saves me money. I don't have to buy an alarm clock. So that feels so, so good already. I feel so supported in that. So good. I can feel grateful to my lifestyle, to my business that supports that lifestyle. I can feel so good about it and appreciate it every day. Now, what makes it even better is when my husband brings me coffee in bed, right? I can be grateful in my bed as it is. I feel wonderful. And then there's more. I can have even more. I can have my husband bring me coffee. And after that, there's even more. And what if life was like that? I have already achieved all of this. I've already studied hard to become a lawyer. I was supported by so and so. This has developed or nurtured this in me. And now, how do I want to expand from here? And when you look at the tree being watered, encouraged to grow even further, you can see that we are really meant to expand, aren't we? We are really meant to grow. We're not meant to stop. So once we have become a lawyer, I mean, I give that example, but it could really be anything. Once we have got the house of our dreams, once we have done something that we've really wished for, that we cherish, well, there's still more. And that doesn't mean we haven't succeeded, right? It just means that there's more. So think of a tree that is, shall we say, 50 years old. It could be looking lovely, or it could have had a few branches chopped off in its lifetime. But that doesn't mean we don't want it to grow. It doesn't mean that we expect it to stay the same. And it doesn't mean that it is unsafe to keep growing. So once we've established that, on top of your line, on your piece of paper, you've got all these times or incidents in your life, these circumstances that have nurtured your potential. Now we can look below the line or look at the roots of the tree. Then we can look at, well, what was or what is the interests or dreams or skills that I've never even explored? What are those? What are those skills? So at the moment, I'm working with a lot of people who feel that they are socially awkward. So to me, that just means, oh, they haven't nurtured the skill of connecting with people. So I'm sure you would agree with me that we could all learn to play the piano. So some of us will find it easier than others to learn how to play the piano. Like we can have a special skill that we find easy to develop and to nurture. And then other people could be having just as much fun with the piano, but not be able to nurture it as well. If these people are feeling socially awkward, I'm just saying that, oh, it's not because that they can't feel at ease socially. It's not that they can't connect with people. It's just that they haven't nurtured it. And as soon as they choose to, as soon as they're willing to do something that takes a little bit of an effort for themselves, as soon as they see that they are worthy of making that effort, well, then they can start nurturing that skill or that talent that has been overlooked. So what comes up for you when I say, can you think of a skill or talent and interest that, well, you just never explored? So I did that a few years ago. I thought about, okay, Katrina, so this is all very well. Your life is looking good, but let's keep evolving. Let's explore. So I wanted to find out whether I could draw and paint because I never tried. Like my childhood was all about music. And then, of course, I did draw my little architectural drawings, but they were, I mean, that was so basic. So all my time, my creativity was really spent on different things. And I never learned much about painting or drawing, or I've just never explored that. So I thought, well, why don't you go and see what it's all about? Why don't you go and find out what you can bring it to? And so I took painting lessons, I think for 2 years. And what I most enjoyed about that was mixing the colors. I never suspected that. But what I really enjoyed was how I mixed the color to make different colors or different hues of a color. I really enjoyed that. And as you get more and more skilled at it, it gets to be more and more fun. And that just surprised me. And so I explored that a little bit. And of course, I didn't bring it too much because I decided to discontinue it because there's something I wanted to spend my time on. And so I didn't have to judge myself for not having become an excellent painter or very good at drawing or anything like that. I just could notice that, oh, here's an area that I could explore. I could keep exploring it. I could keep finding out about it. And maybe that would bring me some more joy. Right? I would learn more about who I am. So maybe you can think of something like that. And if you can, please put it in the chat. Please share so that we can get it inspired. Any interest or dreams or skills that you just haven't explored, not to make yourself wrong about it, but just to notice. So something you've always wanted to try, but you told yourself was beyond you, or that you're not really worth the effort? Can you think of anything? It's my question. If you're watching the replay, you can always put me on pause and think about it. If you're here live, we can't pause too long, right? Because then it gets to be really boring. But if something comes to mind, oh, a lot, creative writing, surfing, riding a horse. Ooh, delicious. Excellent. So the thing is, when we notice, we don't have to take action on it. That's what we get to decide. And I'm going to talk about that later. But just noticing, really noticing. Oh, I could do this. Oh, I could do that. What is it really that lies dormant that I've just not focused on? It's as if we've got all these things in front of us and we are sort of having a spotlight on some of the things and we are missing all the rest. And please rest assured, we could never explore all of everything, could we? Because there is so much to explore. If you think of a big, large tree, all the roots, I mean, just all the branches, we can't explore all of it. So it's really about choice, isn't it? It really is about choice. So maybe you're thinking, well, Katrina, you didn't talk a lot about the talents, the skills, everything that was stifled. And of course, we could talk a lot about that, but really, what's the point? Because it's in the past. And if something was stifled in you in the past, well, it's in the past. So you can choose to take it out now, detaching it from the past if you want to explore that further. But there's really no point in dwelling on what went wrong in the past. We're not denying it. It's just like, well, how can that serve me now? How does that serve me? It really doesn't. Like, I can ask myself, well, why wasn't I encouraged to paint when I was little? I don't think we ever had like colors to paint with at home. I can't remember that. Maybe at school we had colored pencils, but can't remember ever being invited to paint anything. Or to think it was possible. I could be terribly upset about that, or I could just think, oh, well, yeah, you can't develop everything. And I think that our parents always do what they think is best for us. And my parents were very, very keen that we be able to play the piano, because for them that was sort of like the summit of being cultured and being somebody important and having it all right. And that's really what they wanted for me and my sister. So of course, the painting got squeezed out, and that's just how it was. And it really doesn't matter. It's all good. Well, if ever I want to paint again, I can. I can just take it up again and enjoy it or not, right? I can explore on my own. I'm an adult now. So thinking about that, something you've always wanted to try, but told yourself was beyond you, or that you were not worth making the effort. It would be too much effort. So I want to learn Italian, and that's quite an effort. It's fun, but it's also an effort because it means I have to set time aside to do that. It won't happen on its own. Like I have to sort of say, okay, let me find time in my day. And I think with languages, like it's something you have to do every day if you want to learn it. So, okay, let me set time aside. So it is a bit of an effort. And I think also learning these things like, oh, you have to make your brain work. And sometimes it's a little bit tiring and it's tempting not to do it and all of that. So I really have to remind myself, well, I am worth making that extra effort. I really am worth it. So when you look at whether you're worth the effort, please don't think that making the effort, if you make the effort, you must get to the end result. If you don't get to the end result, it means that your effort was misused or misspent or not worth it. So in my example with learning Italian, I could be telling myself, I must make the effort. I'm worth it. I want to be fluent in Italian. I want to be able to go and visit a friend in Torino. I want to be able to talk with everybody in Italian. I want to be able to watch Italian films. And when I can do that, it means that it was worth exploring. That is simply not the case because I'm free to stop whenever I want on that road, the way I did with the painting, right? It's not about the end result. It is who we become as we explore. Don't you love that idea? It takes the pressure away of having to get to that end result. And I think every day I wake up, I'm free to choose again. I really am. I can say, oh, this Italian thing, just too much. Like, it's not that interesting after all. I'm not enjoying it as much as I thought I would. Let me change my mind. I can be perfectly okay without ever speaking 3 words of Italian. Right? I'm not interested. So I can make that choice every day, which can become a little bit tiring. So what I do, and feel free to use this for yourself, when I'm exploring more of my potential, and I'm uncovering those skills and talents, I tell myself, okay, I'm going to do this for this amount of time. And then I will reconsider. Because let's face it, at the end of the day, when I'm doing my Italian, if I have to make the choice every day, do I want to do Italian? Well, no, let me go and eat some chocolate on my sofa rather than do Italian, right? So it becomes very difficult to be consistent when you're allowing yourself to make these daily choices. So what I do recommend is that you set yourself a fixed period of time, or you set yourself a goal. Like when I've made 10 drawings, I will revise. Am I still willing to make the effort to learn how to draw or not? And I wanted another thing. I wanted to find out whether I could run, because I always get so out of breath when I run, and I'm quite capable of walking for long distances or cycling for long distances, but running I find really challenging. So I got myself an app where I could learn to run 5 kilometers. And I started doing this app like 2 or 3 times a week. And I got to the 5 kilometers quite easily. And I thought, oh, that was not too bad. Almost too easy, because I set off far more time to achieve that than was necessary. So I thought, oh, let me try the 10 kilometers. Let me try 10 kilometers in 1 hour. And just out of curiosity. And so I did that with the same app, and I got to the 10 kilometers in 1 hour. And I thought, okay, I'm done. I really am. I tried this out. I explored that. I can do it, but I don't like it. I really don't. So let me stop this. And so I did. I never took that further. So I'm not the kind of person who wants to go like run a marathon or anything like that. But I mean, I'm perfectly okay with that. So there is a lot to be said about exploring that potential that you've got, putting limits or boundaries around it, and not making yourself wrong when you don't get to the result. Like I explored painting for two years, taking lessons. I enjoyed that. And then I'm done. I'm really done. Now I'm learning Italian. It's still fun. I am enjoying it. It's a bit difficult. So I'm keeping on with it. I'm not making the decision every day, right? I'm doing 6 months at a time. And I find that so interesting, because then I also learn so much about myself. Because when I notice, oh, I'm finding excuses not to do it, right? Just being onto myself, oh, I think this is an excuse. So look at that for yourself. What is worth the effort? And another question I wanted to ask you is, What part of yourself have you set aside? So that's again under this line on your piece of paper. What part of yourself have you set aside? I don't know why this came up. Maybe because of a few clients I've got who've sort of set their body aside, if that makes sense. They sort of said, oh, I'm so comfortable in my mind that I don't really need my body, so I'm not going to focus there. I'm not going to focus on being in my body or developing my body or I'm trying to ignore it a little bit. So maybe that's your case. Maybe you want to revise that. Maybe you want to dig out something that you have been ignoring. Right? What could that be? A side of you that you have set aside. I also find that many of my clients don't think of themselves as creative because they could be an accountant and they think, oh, accountants, oh, they're not creative. I'm not creative. So have you been setting a side of yourself, like a side of your personality, a side of your talent, your abilities? Like, I think I could have explored maths a lot more. And maybe that's a little bit of regret of mine that I've never explored myself as a mathematician, if you see what I mean. I'm very good at logic, but I'm not very good at abstract thinking at all. And I think I could have developed that, but I never did. So I've got some potential there, unexplored. Right? I set that aside and I told myself, oh, yeah, you're just not very good at maths. And I still tell myself, oh, you're not very good at abstract thinking, right? And that is so limiting. It really is. Such a lot of nonsense. And I think we all do that, don't we? We put ourselves into these little boxes. Then we tell ourselves, oh, I am like that. I'm not like that. And what have you. And of course, that can feel really secure. That can feel really good. Like I can be saying, oh, I'm a creative person. I'm dependable. I am conscientious. I'm kind. And that can be true most of the time. But I want to leave a little window open for when I'm not dependable, for when I'm not kind, for when I'm not creative. Like I want to leave that as a possibility. So I don't want to over-define myself. And I think that sometimes happens with our jobs. Like we limit ourselves to what it is we do. So we put so much value on the doing, like I am a teacher, or I am a nurse, or I'm an accountant. That is who I am. Because these are the skills I've developed. I've really had my spotlight on that. So I get to believe that, oh, that is who I am. But really, that's just what you do. And what I want to suggest to you is that everything we do, somebody else can do. Right? I could be, well, I'm a life coach. I'm sitting here in my boudoir on my yellow sofa talking to you. And like any other life coach could be sitting here talking to you. Like I am so replaceable in what I do. If I keel over and die, somebody else could come in and do exactly what I do. So think about what you do at your work or maybe taking care of your children. Like somebody else could do it. And where your children are concerned, I would suggest that they do it if they're old enough. Right? But just notice how attached we are to the value we provide in our doing. Now, what we do is not who we are. And I think our real value is in who we are. So, nobody is exactly the way you are. We are all unique. If you're a dentist, well, there are lots of other dentists, really. but you are you. And when you are the dentist, then you are being you. You're doing dentistry your way. So I think our value is much more about who we are. And then when we put who we are into what we do, our doing takes value from who we are. But the doing in and of itself is really not where our value is. Would you agree with me on that? And I really invite you to explore that. If you look at, oh, my value is in who I am. Oh, if my value is in who I am, well, then that's what I want to nurture, isn't it? That is, if you look at my tree, that is whom I want to nurture, fertilize, water, all of it. Not so much the doing. I can take then who I am into my doing and make that more valuable. But my real value is in my being. I think that is so good to know, because it also means that I don't have to do anything to have value. I think we get this so confused because it's so easy to place our value in what we do, right? Because it gets reflected back to us, like we are valuable because of what we do. Thank you for doing this. Oh, it gives me value. Somebody else is grateful that I'm doing what I'm doing. So their gratitude sort of fills me up with value. And just sitting here in my boudoir on my yellow sofa, well, it's so difficult to see the value in that, isn't it? But what if that was my real, like my utmost value, really, was in my being? And I think it is. And I would invite you to start thinking about yourself the same way. In your being. So of course you can be a mother. And of course your value is not in changing the diapers or feeding your child, which anybody could do, or most people could do, lots of people could do, let's say. It's really how you do it, isn't it? And it's really in being a mother, how you are loving your child, right? The love you shower your child with, and all that deliciousness. That is the real value, I would suggest. If you're a dentist, well, it's really the same. Anybody could treat somebody's mouth, like any dentist, right? You do it your way. That is the value. So that got me a little bit off track. Let's get back on track. Because another question with this timeline is that if we're going to move into the future here and draw an arrow on that line on your paper and move into the future, can you think of anything you feel could excite you, but also be a little bit scary? So anything that feels, oh, that's exciting. So that could be like starting your own business, or a bit scary, right? Or anything else really. Doing a degree, going back to school, having a child, finding the love of your life. Anything that is exciting, but also scary at the same time. And if you can think of anything like that, anything, feel free to put it in the chat if you know. I realize it's very personal, so that's why I'm not sort of going on about putting it in the chat, but you can if you want to. Anything that feels, oh, exciting, but scary. Could be doing solo travel, leaving your job, Moving to a different city? A keynote speaker. Wow. Yes, I love it. Exciting, but slightly scary. So good. So it can be hugely scary. What I'm going to suggest in that is, I was talking with somebody the other day about this. Like my dream, I'm going to say it again, my dream is to live in a chateau. And a chateau is just French for castle. Now, I want to live in my chateau so that I get to enjoy the beauty of the architecture. So I get to play at my doll's house, if you see what I mean, like arranging everything to be beautiful the way I like it, and then to have people come and share it with me. That is my dream. That feels really scary because so much could go wrong, right? And just today I was thinking about, okay, what if the boiler wasn't working? Like, I'm sure when you are living in a chateau, lots of things could go wrong. Like a chimney could fall down, or there could be a leak in the roof, or a tree could fall down. Like lots of things could happen. And well, would I really enjoy that? Well, no, I wouldn't. But I can do hard things. Right? I can remind myself that, yeah, well, actually, maybe I was made for this. So when I'm going for something exciting in my future that also feels scary, I have to be willing to embrace all of it. Like the things I really want, the beauty, the sharing it with others, the enjoyment of it. Well, I have to be willing to embrace that as well as everything that goes wrong, everything that is hard about it. So that doesn't mean I want it to go wrong, right? That doesn't mean I want the chimney to fall down. But I really have to embrace all of it. Also, I have to embrace the idea that perhaps people won't want to come and stay with me. I mean, I find that difficult to imagine, but I mean, it could be my financial ruin, couldn't it? And when I'm okay with that, well, then I really become unstoppable. And all I have to do is to look below that line at the roots of the tree, the unexplored potential, and trust, really, that I've got the potential in me and I can start nurturing it, if I so wish, to deal with the broken roof or financial ruin, that I was built for it. I can do it. I can do hard things. I just need to trust that what I haven't yet discovered exists. And if I trust that I have already got all that potential in myself, that I can deal with whatever comes my way, then I become what we call unstoppable, really. Because there's nothing I'm unwilling to deal with. And I find that this is really what unconsciously holds a lot of people back. It is that refusal to deal with the hard things. And the sad thing about that is that anything we want that we haven't yet got, anything we want to be, have, or do, is on the other side of hard. So, Renata, if you don't mind my using your example, becoming a keynote speaker is, of course, brilliant because you'll be developing so much of your talents, of your skills. You will be bringing so much to other people. It is such an expansion. But are you willing to be a failure at it too? Is really the question. And how are you going to have your own back if that happens? So that is about looking at the unexplored potential and then trusting that, oh, when I hit that roadblock, I will go below the surface and I will pull out and nurture what was yet unnurtured inside of me. I've got it. I've already got it. I just need to nurture it. Does that make sense? So good. So I really enjoyed thinking that I have got so much unexplored potential that, well, when I choose to do something new, like living in a chateau, then it just reveals to me some of that unexplored potential that I will have to pull up. I will have to make visible so that I can use it. And I think that is what life is about. It's about using more of that potential, isn't it? So not just the branches. Of course, we can let the branches grow into the sky, and that is all wonderful. But let's also pull out some of that unexplored potential, and let's not be afraid of going there. So I used to help women at menopause lose weight. And that was really such a learning curve for me, because really what prevented anybody from losing weight was what was underneath that line. It was that unexplored potential. So it was again about looking only at the branches and looking at, oh, I'm somebody who needs to eat every 2 hours, otherwise my energy drops, right? I'm defined like that. Well, let's dive in and see your potential, right? I can do hard things. I can explore that potential. So I would suggest that whether you're looking at weight loss, whether you're looking at making your first million, becoming a keynote speaker, starting your own business, whatever it is, where there is going to be some hard involved. And I think that is perfect, because that is what will develop you. That is what will expand you, what will have you grow. And isn't that really what we're here to experience, right? Some of us think that we're here to just be safe, right? And that is not really very joyful. I think there's much more joy in stepping out of that comfort zone, out of that safety zone, realizing that we are safe, exploring the dormant potential, the potential below that line. So what I'm going to invite you to do with this workshop is to look at one thing, one small thing that you could explore today. Just one tiny thing that would perhaps open up a new avenue, or confirm your suspicions, or just start you on a journey. Like, what a gorgeous journey. What a gorgeous journey to be exploring yourself. Can you think about any more exciting thing that's saying that, oh, I want to explore more of who I am. I want to bring more of it out, knowing that I don't think it's possible to actually bring all of it out. But we can argue about that. But I think really the joy in life is knowing that I am safe to explore all of it. And what I explore is just a matter of choice. And I think my desires guide me to what would be beneficial for me to explore. So I can explore how I can be financially living in a chateau, how I can be the person responsible for keeping the boiler working, and how I can be responsible for inviting people to come and stay and make a success of it, and all of that. Like, that is just an invitation. So it's as if my desires invite me to explore that dormant potential. Does that make sense? So if you're here live, if you're watching the replay, in the comments below, please share with me what that thing is that you can do today. And if you're watching this at midnight, you can put it off till tomorrow. All right. But what is one thing that you could explore? Choose one, knowing that, well, you can choose again tomorrow, right? It's never carved in stone. We are free to change our minds. We're free to explore other things. We are free to, well, just choose differently. So if you can think of one thing, let me know in the chat. Also, what I want to strongly suggest, if this is something that speaks to you, this idea that you have got undeveloped potential, unexplored, dormant potential, what I would love for you to do is to book a life audit session. I'm putting the link to book in the chat. So during this session, we'll really just explore more of what it is that you could be exploring, what you could be pulling up onto the surface that might support you in being or becoming or having or doing what it is you really want to do. That exciting, but also scary thing out there. So the advantage of doing that is that you will get clarity. You will be really clear on, okay, this is something that I feel I have to explore to be more of who it is I am. It's my choice. I can take action on it or not, but I really can choose this. And if I choose this, here's what it will look like. So you can get started on that plan right away. You can take your first action step. And the beautiful thing about taking one step is that once you've taken that step, you can then choose your next step and then your next one. So if you imagine at the beginning of doing something new, of exploring something, we don't really know all the action steps. We can imagine a lot of things and we get really busy in our brains about imagining that. But until we actually take one of those steps, we don't know what's next. So we can't define our first 10 action steps because they will be influenced by what happens after your first action step. And isn't that exciting? Like if you choose to book a life audit session with me, you're just opening the door to something new. That is your first step. And from having taken that step, other things become possible. Does that make sense? So when you do that, you can find out what you intend to do and then be honest to yourself about following up on it. And you're aware of the pitfalls. You're aware of the things that you are avoiding. What are the things that I really don't want to explore? What are the things that I don't believe I can handle? And what if you could? What if you discovered that in you, which will support you exactly the way you need to be supported to do what it is you want to do? You will have some emotional support. You will have my full participation in that dream of yours. And we can explore whether you've got what it takes and whether it's something you want to take action on. Okay, so Renata says, I will explore how to narrow down what I want to share in my speaking. Okay, right. And the good thing about that is you can test it out straight away. So the only way you can know what it is you want to share is if you start sharing it. And I suspect there are so many things that you could share. So it's just a choice. It's a matter of choice. And isn't that good to know that life is a matter of choice? We get all these choices. And you can get support in making those choices. If you don't feel you can trust yourself with the choices, please go out and get a life coach who can help you make a choice. that you won't end up regretting because you will know why you made it. So please go ahead. If you feel this is something that speaks to you, if you feel, oh, I need to explore further, go ahead and book a conversation with me. It's free. Did I mention that? It's free and it comes with no strings attached. I might be able to point you in a direction that appeals to you. I will certainly make it look a lot clearer to you than what it looks like now. And then you might want to take action. Who knows? What if it was not that far out in the future? What if it was something we could bring in to January, right? What if it could all be happening much sooner than you think? That is the thought I want to leave you with. So I'm thrilled if you have decided on one thing that you want to explore, what that looks like exactly. Just know that now is such a good time to decide on what action you're going to take. It could be to book a time to talk with me. It could be to do something other tangible out there in the real world. There will never be a better time than now, because yesterday's gone. Tomorrow, goodness knows what will happen. Right now, you have got the power to take action, and I do suggest you do so. It's all very well me talking to you about all of that, and I hope it has opened your mind, but it's not enough. You have to take this out into the real world. You really do. So, like, an example would be you have to go and take those painting lessons that I took, right? You have to, if you want to change your job, you might want to search for another job. You might want to get your CV, or what's it called in American, resume, done, right? You might want to take some tangible action steps. Once you start taking them, you'll be creating momentum, and you never know where that will take you. It might take you to exactly where you want to go, and it might get you there much sooner than you thought. How does that feel? How does that feel? Really? How do you feel right now in your body? When I tell you, you could be not so far from doing exactly what you want, from being exactly who you want to be, from having exactly what you want. What if that was really within your grasp? What if you looked down at the roots of the tree and found that everything was there? Wouldn't that be gorgeous? Try it out. I love talking to you. I would love to connect with you. If you're watching the replay, please go ahead and find the link to book a live audit session with me. And I shall see you hopefully soon. Bye for now.